Welcome to Muddy River News this week. I'm Bob Goff. My guest today is Bill Lantz, the director at the Quincy Regional Airport. Welcome.
Well, I appreciate the invite. Welcome. Glad to be here.
You guys have a pretty busy time right now. I know one of the biggest things is trying to get the transition in to a new EAS provider. How is that going, and how is it being impacted?
Well, it's been a slow process. We reached out to DOT in September of 2024, and we started speaking with them about this and became a little more aggressive about it. And DOT said, okay, this is a long drawn out process. We're still working on it. We've submitted our recommendation to the Department of Transportation. It was met with some challenges from Air Wisconsin. And since then, we've sent a rebuttal back to the Department of Transportation, and our recommendation, which was Contour Air, they also sent a rebuttal. And there's also been an additional challenge with changes at the federal government level, and all these things have slowed the process down a little bit. I hope to hear by the end of this month, at least, that DOT is going to accept our recommendation, and then the jury's still out on when that's really going to be, but estimated timeline I'm going to say now is probably end of June.
So Air Wisconsin was the other finalist along with Southern, correct?
That is correct.
And so Air Wisconsin basically, since they didn't get selected, they wanted another kind of bite at the apple, so to speak?
I should backpedal a little bit. So the three finalists was going to be Air Wisconsin, Contour Air, or Cape Air was our three finalists to pick from. And I'm going to say that out of the three choices that we looked at very well, we felt like Contour Air was going to be the best fit for Quincy. Understand we're going from a 9-seat aircraft in this case to a 30-seat aircraft. And our enplanements last month boarded 168 roughly. So how are we going to fill a 30-seater when we're not filling a 9-seater? That was the real.
That's a valid point. And again, the consistency, the issues that we've had, of course, you want to try to put COVID in the rearview mirror, but COVID was a part of it. Cape Air's inability to fill was a part of it. Southern's commitment's been a part of it. It's really been a struggle the last few years, and that has really impacted whether or not people want to use Quincy Regional Airport. What can you do? What can the city do to get people to say, please give us a chance, we want to make this thing work?
Well, that's a great question. There's several things in my opinion, but the first thing is going to be to actually get another air carrier in here, and then we're going to have to rebuild the trust. That's going to be a marketing thing, which is mostly on the airline, media. Honestly, word of mouth in this area is probably your best best media. It's free. Hate to pick on you, but it's free. But positive word of mouth is a good thing. Negative word of mouth affects you just as bad the other way. So we're just hoping to make this change. I want people to bear with us on this. It takes a little bit to get through the hoops, but I believe Contour Air and the airport I researched has had really good luck with them, and 30 to 40% increases in enplanements. I think they're going to be a good carrier for us.
Now, is that also going to involve Burlington? Are they in the mix on this one or no?
Burlington also recommended Contour Air, but we directly will not be involved with Burlington.
Okay, so
they're their own route.
So we'll have the flights to Chicago, and then possibly eventually the flights to Nashville. Is that how it shakes out?
That's the way it's going to shake out. Hopefully it should be fairly soon after we get to Chicago. We definitely want to get the Chicago route secured and get the trend started. And Nashville is also in the works. We think ideally going two directions in two different regions. Obviously, weather can affect Chicago. The weather can affect anything. But two different regions, you stand a better chance of dealing with the weather issues. Obviously, it's a regional jet, so it's a sealed aircraft, so it can fly at higher altitudes and a better airspeed. So we think a combination of them factors and the fact that Southwest is a major hub in Nashville over what St. Louis can provide.
I think that again, as somebody, I mean, if I'm going to fly to St. Louis, having my wife being from down there, having friends down there, the whole 9 yards, it's just easier for me to drive to St. Louis, park for $9 a day, and do that. That's always been the way. Chicago, the flights, I get that, and I completely understand that. But I think the Nashville option is something that's going to be really appealing to a lot of people.
I do too, or we do. I think it's a great idea. St. Louis, and they're trying to work their way back, but St. Louis has lost a lot of good air carriers as far as hubbing.
Yeah.
American Airlines has scaled way back. They don't hub out of there very much. Very few flights direct anywhere. Southwest is the only real air carrier left there that's hubbing.
Yeah.
And United still flies out of there, and some other air carriers, but again, not a major hub.
Right.
We're thinking that Tennessee route's going to offer a major hub and better direct flights. So
you talked about the whole marketing aspect. We found Southern to be really responsive in the marketing. It's just they just couldn't deliver when they needed to get the planes up in the air and get the flights going. And again, it's great to. If you're going to promise it, you got to deliver. And unfortunately, that seems to have been their downfall.
And it's not just been our airport, it's been many other airports. Sure. We're, I think, second or third airport to reach out to DOT and say, hey, we want to open the contract and breach it and be done with it.
Yeah.
I know that Southern's had a lot of challenges elsewhere, reached out to several airports. In their defense, you get up around Wisconsin, they had a major hub up there for a repair center, and you get up in the Wisconsin area, Southern's still pretty well liked, but you get outside of that general area, it doesn't take too long to start seeing the frown on people's faces. So
let's talk a little bit about the physical plant itself at the airport. You guys have put in millions of dollars in runway improvements and stuff. Are those just about wrapped up, or you still got a few to go?
We still have a couple loose ends to close out on the last runway project. The overall project was $36 million, a little bit over that. At least 90% of it was covered under federal monies, 2.5% state, 2.5% city money, and there was a lot of that dollars that was also 100% federal money, bill money as well. So it's been a good deal for the city of Quincy. We rehabbed our longest runway, which is almost 7,200 feet long. Took a small swale out of it. You can now see from one end to the other, makes it visibility better. We also raised one end 4.5 feet to help with the visibility issues, and we think it's going to be a good runway for a long time to come. There's no way the city could afford to do that on their own, for sure.
And again, when you talk about putting in a $36 million improvement, and it appears that the federal government, the state, the city all want the airport to survive and thrive. And I know it's not just the commercial. I know we have a lot of our local private companies utilize it on a frequent basis, and a lot of people who just have small planes are out there as well. But the commercial aspect is what gets the headlines, or when it's going poorly, that's what gets the headline. When it's going great, you get some headlines, but hey, things are going great. The viability, at some point, the viability of Quincy as an EAS, to have our own commercial connector. Are we at the point where there's enough carriers that are going to want to mess with this still, or is it any chance of saying, I just don't know if we can continue to do this?
Well, that's a great question. The one thing I'll say, in years past, when we opened up the EAS for bids, in most cases, and recent ones that I remember, if we had 2 bids, that was considered a pretty good outcome. The fact that we had 6 potential bidders this time kind of shows that there's definitely an interest in Quincy. I personally believe it's a twofold process. We have to have the air carrier to support the airport, meaning the grant monies wouldn't come into the airport without the air carrier, but the private sector or the corporations that utilize the airport, I'll pick on or name a couple of them is what I should say. Knapheide Manufacturing, that's a big player in Quincy. Blessing Hospital's flown many doctors in before they've started work here in the area. Neiman Foods and Titan Wheel's another big name.
Sure.
You know, they need the airport. I know that Menards, when they came to Quincy, you know, they flew their corporate staff in for several times and continue to fly them in. Home Depot, when they first started out as Home Depot Crossroads, they flew their corporate staff in. Without the airport, it's hard to get big companies
Sure.
and retailers to come in here and set up. It helps when they can fly their corporate staff directly into the airport. But the real bread and butter as far as the income of the airport and being able to get the grant monies from the federal side is definitely our employments, which is thus the commercial airline.
Which is what we're working on.
That's
so.
what we're working on. So
right.
it's a twofold process.
Well, I know we'll be in touch, and we'll find out when Contour takes over, and we'll look forward to working with you and working with Contour to see what we can do to get those numbers up.
Well, I'm excited about it. Change is always a little sketchy or scary, but I feel very, very assured that Contour is a solid choice, and I just hope that DOT agrees with us and get through some hurdles at the federal level. And the last thing I'd like to speak on that, if I may, the airport is running. There's 2 contracts ahead of us. We know that Burlington's ahead of us, and there's one other one that I don't remember the name of, but them contracts were due to lapse, so DOT takes them in priority over an opened up contract. So like Burlington, Iowa was scheduled to lapse here shortly, so they will secure that one, and they will secure the other airport first, and then we should be next in line to get the EAS contract secured.
Last question. If I'm going out to the cafe, what should I order?
About anything's good, I would say. Depends on your liking.
That's a political answer. I wanted a recommendation.
All right. So I would say their breakfasts are the best.
Breakfast. There you go. All right. Bill Lantz, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
That's all the time we have for now. I'm Bob Goff. Have a great week.